Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. I am Mark Givler, joined by Kevin Noon. It's a commitment edition, folks. Ohio State has landed four-star running back Favour Akih out of Delaware Hayes High School, just north of Columbus. Big pickup for Ohio State here this afternoon. Made his official visit this weekend, and boxes were checked. Everything gets done. We kind of hinted this could be possible coming into the weekend, and it's now official. So the Buckeyes have their first running back of the 2026 recruiting class in local prospect Favour Akih. Kevin, probably not a big surprise here, but still nice to get on the board.
Yeah, exactly. Trying some new tools here, and it had us flipped in terms of our name, so I didn't like that. So I'm here solo. I'll get us figured out here at some point. I think this is a huge pickup. Obviously, a key maybe doesn't carry the name cachet that fans were looking for, with like Hyder and Baker and Cooper all on the board and guys like that. But don't let distance play a factor into it, and just because he's just from a neighboring county, be like, well, that isn't a big deal. I mean, this kid can play, and we're going to put his highlights up here in a second and talk about what it means. But I think that this is a really good pickup for Ohio State, and you know it's about damn time.
Yeah, I think people were like, "Hey, when's this going to happen?" Thought it might happen in May. Came and went. He did set up the official, of course. So I think people were kind of looking at this weekend as like a "is he in or is he out" type of deal. And it's not like he was given an ultimatum or anything, but like, look, this has been a long term recruitment now, and I think it just felt like it was time for everybody here to come together. So here we are. First, we'll talk about Favour a little bit here. We can throw in some of his film. He's got really just about everything you're looking for in a running back. He's got good size. He runs with great pad level. Can kind of see him getting low there through the hole. He's got good burst and vision, and has some top end speed. Where if you give him a step, you're going to have some problems. So, a very complete player at the running back position, and someone who really burst onto the scene this past year as a junior. So he's kind of a bit of a late bloomer in a sense, but a guy that picked up a ton of national interest over the past 6 months or so. And of course, Ohio State got involved as well. And look, Carlos Loughlin's really been rolling with recruiting. So the fact that Favour Akih was a take for Ohio State should tell you something with all the other running backs they've had on the board. That should tell you how Carlos Loughlin and the Ohio State staff feels about him. But again, when you're talking about someone who's 6 feet tall and you're going to be 200 plus pounds, and can kind of run away from you, and again runs with that low pad level and is able to use those feet. I mean, that was a great move in the hole there on the video we're watching. Just has that vision and shiftiness and toughness. I think this is a really good pickup for Ohio State. I think he's going to be a really solid back for the Buckeyes. And they beat a lot of national programs were involved here. And I think probably the most notable, like maybe the runner up here, is probably Miami. That was a school that was linked pretty heavily to Favour during the recruiting process. And, Miami's, had some good backs here recently, and there's a lot of good running backs in Florida they could have went after. So the fact that they were coming up all the way to Ohio, I think says something as well about Favour Akih's ability. But again, I like the vision and the toughness that he shows. And again, here we go. He can catch the ball a little bit as well. I mean, that's always going to be a plus. Great spin move there coming right out of the catch. So again, a lot of tools here, and a guy who's gotten a lot better through his high school career, which is always a good sign when you start projecting him to college.
The thing I'm going to kind of take away from this one is everybody was really excited when Carlos Loughlin came in and kind of reset the board with last year's class, and a departure maybe from the board that Tony Alford had as his predecessor. And then we get into this cycle, and the Carson Baker visit is off, and are they taking two? Are they taking one? What's going on? I don't know. We're going to get into that here in a second. We're talking more in particular about Akih, but are you on board with what Loughlin's doing, or are you questioning it? Because last year everybody was pretty damn excited about it. They obviously had a fantastic 1-2 punch in terms of what they were playing with Trevion Henderson, with Quinshon Judkins. We got to see a little bit, like just a preview, like a preview of James Peoples. They go out, they get C.J. Donaldson in the portal. Bo Jackson looks like he's going to be somebody who's going to play. We haven't even had a chance to see Turbo Rogers yet. They're rolling very deep at running back. So I think this is one of these things of, if you're on the fence, and I'm not here, as I said on my show yesterday, I'm not here to tell you how to internet, but I am here to tell you to, I think you should have an open mind in this one. And people are going to just, maybe they go back and they see just the in-state running back that didn't necessarily do anything. And I'm not talking person to person or body type to body type, but I'll pick on, Todd Sibley Jr. And he was a really nice high school back, and it didn't translate into the collegiate game or anything like that. And I don't think that you can make those types of blanket, those blanket comparisons just because the kid's from Ohio.
Yeah, I would have Favour rated much higher than someone like that coming out of high school. Just again, I think the physical tools are there. He plays. Does he play the best competition in Central Ohio? No, but Central Ohio, he plays big school Central Ohio competition. So you're getting a guy who's proven it at somewhat of a good level of high school football. And again, I always like the guys who get better and better as their high school careers go on, because that's generally a great sign moving forward. But right now, I think even though he's not been here that long, I think Carlos Lachlan has to have earned trust if you're an Ohio State fan at this point. He's both had he's had a productive running back room. That's fine. He didn't develop those guys in terms of being there throughout their college careers. You want to throw that against him, that's fine. But we've yet to see Ohio State put a non-NFL guy in the game at running back with him. That's going to continue with James Peoples. Spoiler alert: he does go get C.J. Donaldson, one of the best running backs in the transfer portal, and he signs a great class last year. I don't think they signed Bo Jackson if he's not the running backs coach. I really don't. I really think that was going to go sideways on them if Carlos Lachlan wasn't the running backs coach. So now he's got them in the mix for 4 of the nation's top running backs. Yes, they've clearly made the choice of Favour Akih over Carson Baker. They clearly made that choice with what we've seen the last 2 weeks. So he's down to these 2 great backs left in this class, but he's already got Akih in the fold. Again, I think this has been a really good run for Carlos Lachlan. I think you have to trust his evaluations and trust his judgment based on what we know so far. That's all we can do is go off what we know so far. What we know so far has been very successful.
Yeah, I agree 1,000% on every point you just made there. I mean, at some point, trust has to be earned, and I understand that sometimes, with a year in, and Coach Locke is very young in his coaching career. I mean, he really is, and not just at Ohio State. I mean, in football in general, dude is an interesting cat. He's lived 4 lifetimes. I mean, he is somebody that I would sit down and have multiple beers with and just, trade war stories. Well, listen to his war stories. I'm just a damn reporter, but, listen to his, the things that he's seen and the things he's gone through and the things he's experienced. And, he's taken to this collegiate coaching thing pretty well. So I think that there needs to be excitement, because I did get some text messages leading into us recording this about, question mark, question face, all the emojis. I'm like, dude, just chill, relax. Yes, Delaware County is not necessarily the hotbed of Ohio high school football, but he's getting it done. And and the thing is it's not like they don't have teams on their schedule. It's just that it's not their league play. And by having Favour Akih as, if you're going one back and he's here, it's highly unlikely that he's going to look elsewhere. And I'm not saying that Carson Baker would be somebody who would be looking elsewhere, but he's outside of Atlanta. He would be peppered, every single minute until the ink was dry on his letter of intent. I know we don't do letter of intents anymore, financial aid agreement, whatever the hell they call them. This is one that if it's even, I'm staying local at that point. And I don't think that Ohio State really gave anything back. Now, if Ohio State made the decision that it wants 2 backs and was able to get a Hyder or able to get a Cooper or somebody like that, fan-freaking-tastic. But you took 3 backs last year. The portal is always open for business. I think we're still in the infancy of the House settlement. Not all of that is even in play yet. I mean, it's agreed upon, but it's not even in play yet. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, and look, it's pretty clear at this point that Ohio State and Carlos Loughlin's thinking is we want Favour Akih in this class. We're willing to walk away from Carson Baker to do that. And now we're going to take our swings at Savion Hyder and Derek Cooper. And if and I say we, I don't say we as in I'm part of it, but I say we as in I'm speaking as though this is Ohio State. If we can get Savion Hyder or Derek Cooper to go with him, that's fantastic. That's great. And if not, we're good with just Favour Akih if that's how it plays out. But we're not going to lower the standard at running back. So we're not going to reach to hit some magical quota. We're going to take guys we think can make a difference here, not guys who are going to get here, not be able to play, and then transfer out in a year. So they're in a pretty cool situation, I think, right now where they've got their guy in Favour Akih, and now they can pretty much put all their energy into Hyder or Cooper, and maybe someone else either that we're not talking about right now comes available later in the process. Maybe there's a reevaluation of no one knew at this point in the recruiting process, no one knew who Jahmyr Gibbs was. So maybe that something like that makes itself available later, but they're in a great position right now where they're playing with house money. They've got really what they need. They need one back. They don't need two backs in this class, but they'd like to take a second one. If it's an elite guy, they think Hyder and Cooper are the two best out-of-state running backs in America. And so they're going to pursue those guys, and we'll see what happens. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I've said this before. I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit. I'm not buying the national buzz of Cooper in Miami. I've got it on pretty good authority that it's very likely Derek Cooper is going to leave the state. And I tend to think this house thing, even though it's not in effect yet, is actually going to help that out, because I don't know that Miami is able to do the Godfather offer in November now. Now that there is going to be a cap down the road at some point, I think this could deter some schools from doing that. So you're looking at, in my opinion, what's kind of an Ohio State-Georgia battle right now. I would lean Georgia at this point. We'll see. He's got his official to Ohio State coming up. We'll see how that goes. They did well with Savion Hyder on his official by all accounts. Tennessee and Michigan are still in there. I know Tennessee's got a pretty nice setup for him in terms of NIL geography depth chart. That could be tough to overcome. But Ohio State feels confident that they're right in that one, and they feel confident they're right in it with Derek Cooper as well. So let's see how these two play out. If they could add one of those guys to go with Akih, that's an A+ running back class.
Well, and the longer that either of those recruitments go helps Ohio State out for a multitude of reasons. I mean, namely because you get the chance to show year two of coaching under Coach Locke. You get to show year two, year one of a running back that wasn't necessarily, that wasn't already established. Trevion Henderson, established. Quinshon Judkins, established. James Peoples, Mark knows, I know, y'all know, he's really damn good. The world doesn't really know that yet. They haven't had the chance. They have not been introduced to him. So you trot out James Peoples, who is sharing the rock with Donaldson, and he goes for 1,100 yards or whatever, and you're a back who's like, I could really get down with with that kind of system. And that's not to take away, Tennessee did a great job with Dylan Sampson. Unfortunately, Dylan Sampson was spent by the time that Tennessee came up to Columbus to play Ohio State and was a non-factor in that point. Ohio State seems to have the secret sauce in terms of the two-back system and everything else. So time is Ohio State's ally at this point, because at that point, you have time to kind of understand the house settlement. You have time to understand this thing, a lot of these things, and you kind of know where you need to shift your dollars and everything else. And, I can't believe here in 2025, I'm talking about having to shift your dollars and everything. And this isn't just a quiet conversation over beers, just laughing about just, how the sausage really is made in terms of just how the world works, not in any school in particular. I think it would be hilarious just in the game of karma. And I know Mark said that Cooper doesn't seem like he's going to go to Miami, but he does commit to Miami, and then Ohio State pulls a South Florida running back away at the last minute, as Miami has done it twice to Ohio State. But if that happens, it's not under the same the same circumstances because Miami really didn't bring in the quote unquote Godfather offer at those points, in Ohio State, unless you're Jeremiah Smith. And even with Jeremiah Smith, still had to kind of prove who was Jeremiah Smith. I mean, sure, there was some wrangling going on before everything was finalized and everything else, but Ohio State has always kind of shown in the very short data points that we have for NIL, you perform, you earn. That's how it's supposed to work. That is supposed, and I don't say that just because I cover Ohio State and it just makes me look better or feel better to say, oh, Ohio State does it the right way, but Ohio State does it the right way.
Yeah, I think again, one thing I think with Cooper, with Hyder, with really anyone who's uncommitted right now, I do wonder how the House settlement, again, not being in effect yet, but just knowing what's coming, if that adjusts the math for some of these programs who are throwing around huge numbers. And I do wonder if they're going to have to walk those back. And then schools maybe like Georgia and Ohio State, who have kind of stuck by their guns on their first kind of, this, they don't play the game of, oh, now it's this, now the offer's this, now, oh, we'll give you even more. They kind of just give you what they think they can do. I wonder if that doesn't help them long term now that it's kind of official what things are going to look like moving forward. So that's another thing to watch here with running back recruiting with Ohio State down the stretch, and with really recruiting at a lot of different positions down the stretch. D-line, again, is one where they don't have any commitments yet. How does this change now? Or schools that are, how does this change for a Tyler Atkinson or a Xavier Griffin? I mean, schools are going to have to kind of show their cards now. Usually you don't have to show your cards, and you really don't ever have to show your cards. You can get them on campus and be like, oh, you just don't have the money. Now you've got to kind of have to show your cards before these kids are on campus. So that's going to be a big thing, I think, to watch. It's almost its own podcast, is to kind of watch how that will impact recruiting. But yeah, for now, big time pickup for the Buckeyes and Favour Akih. Two really big fish still out there at running back. Kevin, any final thoughts here?
No, I'm just going to urge everybody who's watching us on YouTube to be sure to subscribe to the channel. We're making our push to get to 30,000 subscribers before kickoff of the Texas game. You can help us get there. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that thumbs up and hit that bell. Consider being a member of our YouTube community, 99 cents a month. That is, just a great way to just show your support. Minimal impact right there. Super chat, super thanks, all that helps us out as well. Check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com as well. Mark and Berm will be wrapping up an important recruiting weekend. They only had 3 officials. We're talking about one of them. So, what is the remaining fallout there? Big week at camps and 7-on-7s. We will be on campus. It seems like 8 days this week. So this is a great time to get on board and check us out.
Yep. Check out BuckeyeHuddle.com. Jeremy Birmingham with a great write-up on the Favour Akih commitment and with quotes from Favour. So go check that out at BuckeyeHuddle.com if you're not a member already. Berm's been a great addition to our site, and we're going to have him on here at some point in the near future, just kind of ironing a few things out. But until then, we will, again, appreciate your support. We will be back here this week with some camp updates. Again, 4 days at Ohio State this week. We have 4 days in a row at Ohio State for camps and 7-on-7. So there's going to be a lot of content coming both on the YouTube channel and at BuckeyeHuddle.com. So thanks everyone again for your support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll talk to you again very soon.